Greetings, fellow investigators, and welcome back to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where my friends and I play the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. I'm your host, Tom Rayleigh. The bravest thing that a person can do is to continue living when all you want to do is die. Our campaign is Horror on the Orient Express, and this is episode 75. I'm your game master, and Jeff Wilkins will be giving our recap. So, let's begin our journey into the darkness. Jeff?
Thanks, Tom. Our last episode, our group's still in Constantinople, and we are still searching for the shunned mosque and the Sedefkar scroll pieces. We thought we had found the scroll pieces, but instead we discovered empty cases and one small note that said, "The skinless one reclaims what is his. Cursed be Gara's net, the thief for his treachery." Eldritch is determined to find the shunned mosque and is wanting to go explore the area at night. We were able to easily obtain some robes and such to make for a decent disguise so as to blend in better. So around 10:45 p.m., we head off in the direction of the bathhouse into a rather bad neighborhood. Dr. Keith has decided to play it safe and remain back at the hotel. This is no place for a woman to be wandering around at night with three men. We eventually find what we think is the mosque in question. It's made of brick, and so it does appear to be red. There are three men sitting on a porch with a lantern, but no other signs of activity. We decide not to push our luck, so we continue on and go back to our hotel and head to bed. We're very much focused on this new lead with the man named Gara's net. The next morning, we decide to start with the library to see what we can learn. There's not a lot there, his birth and death dates, and I mentioned that he was known for constructing mathematical puzzles. He lived approximately 400 years ago. There is a story about him where his last puzzle has gone unsolved. Apparently, this puzzle was written on the inside of the lid to his tomb. It's worth mentioning, too, that we reminded ourselves of a possible contact that could prove to be very valuable, Professor Demir. Next, we headed down to the docks. We hired a fisherman to take us across the river to the cemetery. His name is Hakeem, and he happened to catch a glimpse of our crowbars. He manages to negotiate a fairly large fee for him to take us across. Eldritch pays the man, in part, for his boat ride and partly to keep him quiet. We arrived at the cemetery and found the area that we were looking for. It's fairly secluded, but as we're starting to get set up, we notice an old man is making his way towards us. Farrier tells us to ignore him. People have nicknamed him the companion to the dead. The old man seems crazy as he's talking gibberish to himself as he approaches. We continue to make the attempt to open the tomb with the crowbars. The old man jumps and warns us to not open the tomb, for we will let the man out. We ignore him and just start to slide the lid open a few inches. And that brings us up to date.
All right. So the moon is shining down on you as you are grave robbing. You're standing, Dr. Dawkins and Frank and Eldritch are standing around the lid as they're slowly starting to push it off. Elizabeth is standing over to the side with, you brought Fader with you? Yes, he's standing there.
Yeah.
The old man, Dr. Elizabeth has him somewhat restrained. He weighs hardly anything, but he is struggling. And as you begin to move the lid, he suddenly breaks loose of Dr. Elizabeth, and he runs a very short distance away and hides kind of behind a gravestone, and he's hissing in your direction. Obviously he's crazy.
Sorry, did you hissing with an H?
He's
oh, sorry,
yeah, like this.
Something entirely different. Sorry.
No, he's not taking a piss. All right, so as you were standing there, the lid begins to move, and as soon as there is a little bit of crack coming through, you get hit by this horrible smell. It's overwhelmingly bad, and yet there's something just vaguely familiar. And as you push the lid another couple of inches, all of a sudden, the lid itself tips back and falls. And in that moment, you see that in the grave is not a skeleton or a body, but a bubbling mass of skin that looks just like that Balab thing. And in that instant, a huge piece of it, like a tentacle, reaches up and it wraps itself 3 times around Frank's arm and holds him there.
I will start screaming immediately.
Yeah, I think you all will. And you can all do sanity rolls.
I want to take the crowbar and try to sever
whack it.
Yeah.
All right.
How much for a pass?
2 points. Otherwise 1d4.
Oh, I got no 5. So it's
05.
05?
Yep.
All right. You whack at the thing, and it's like hitting a gigantic wet leather coat. So it makes a big smacking sound, but you can't really tell whether it's damaging it. It's just hitting it, and it's just indenting. It's just exactly as if it were a big heaping pile of leather. But go ahead and roll some damage.
How much damage would a crowbar do?
Just call it a club. 1d8. We'll just say 1d8 plus your strength bonus.
I got a 6.
Okay. I'm going to give you guys order.
Look, I'm loath to waste decent brandy, but I'm going to get my hip flask out.
Okay. I know what you're going to do. Okay.
Now's not the time to have a drink.
Now
No, I thought, if you're all going to get attacked by a monster, I'll just sit here and get drunk.
Just enjoy
With the old man. Me and the old man will just sit there and get drunk and watch.
Frank is held. Dr. Dawkins whacked at it. Eldridge, what are you going to do?
So I'd like to... I know exactly what Dr. Elizabeth is going to try and do. So I'm going to take my pocket knife, and I'm just going to try and hack at the tendril that is reaching out and wrapping around Frank. I want to cut him loose before she throws, her Molotov.
Okay, go ahead and try.
All right. 18. My brawl is 60.
Okay, so you hit it. Go ahead and do, what is it, 1d4?
It's a 1d4, and I have no bonus. 4.
Okay. All right. You hack into it, and it cuts into, but it's not releasing him. Other tentacles of skin start reaching out and flailing around. Dr. Elizabeth, you've gotten out your flask. What are you going to do? They're all right there too, where the thing is.
Yeah, I can't use it as a Molotov because it's made of metal, so that wouldn't work. So I'm going to try to pour the contents of it into the grave, onto the thing.
Okay, so you're going to approach?
Yes.
Do a dex roll for me.
This is not one of my better characteristics. 37 out of 40. Woo!
All right, so you don't manage to trip and fall, and you come running forward and you start splashing this stuff on the creature. You look over at Fayer, just wondering what he's doing, and he's kind of backing away. The old man, meanwhile, is jumping up and down, saying something that I'm just going to translate. He's saying, "Oh, the nasty thing! Kill it! Kill the nasty thing!" So he's
fair play to him. He did try and warn us, didn't he? I mean,
I would like you all to do a spot hidden roll.
33.
34
out of 65.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, what was it, Eldridge?
37 out of 65.
Frank?
Yes, pass. Regular pass.
You all
Oh,
passed.
sorry, it was 24, not 34. 24.
Okay, you all passed. As you were struggling with this thing, you suddenly begin to notice something else all around you.
Nope.
Your first impression is that the dead are rising from their graves. All of a sudden, there are people all around you. And I'll say, go ahead and do your next round. Frank, what are you going to do? You're struggling with this thing, and it kind of burns your hand, your arm.
I would imagine I still had the crowbar in my hand from trying to pry the lid open.
Okay.
So I'm just going to try to beat on this tentacle thing to get it to release my arm.
All right. Go ahead and do as if you were. You'll go ahead and do a brawl.
Ooh, 90.
I don't actually see how you could miss. Okay, well, you missed. You hit the tomb instead of the creature. All
Probably
right.
hit my own hand.
And it's trying to kind of pull you in.
Yeah.
Dawkins. Dr. Dawkins.
I'm going to try to whack at it again. As a matter of fact, no. I'm going to drop the crowbar. I'm going to pull out my medical utensil.
Okay.
And I'm going to try to sever the connection between the creature and Frank.
Okay. Go ahead and roll to hit.
I'm going to close my eyes.
All right, that's a 49 out of 35. So no, that's not a pass.
I would like you to do a luck roll.
Oh. I got a 23. A 23 out of 45.
So that's a pass?
Yeah.
All right. You'll understand this later. As you're trying to do that, another tentacle reaches up and it smacks against your hand that's holding the knife. We all know what it is. And it knocks the knife out of your hand. The knife falls down in between the graves right next to you.
Well, my next turn, I'm going to go searching for it.
Okay. Eldridge.
Same as before. I take the pocket knife and I'm just hacking at it, trying to flay the skin to where it kind of just rips apart.
Okay. Go ahead.
38 out of 60.
All right. Go ahead and do 1d4.
3.
Okay. You're definitely doing some damage to it, but it's like cutting leather.
Yeah, that's what I imagine. It's going
Right.
to take a lot to kind of cut through it.
Dr. Elizabeth, what are you going to try to do?
I'm going to flick a match into the grave.
Okay. Go ahead and do a luck roll.
Oh, come on. 35 out of 47.
Okay. You hit it. Okay. And the alcohol isn't near Frank, but it suddenly bursts into flame, and the creature starts to writhe, and just as it releases Frank, and the fire sort of wells up all of a sudden, it lights the area and you can see that you are completely surrounded by people in brown, leathery-looking robes.
Oh, Cribbins.
And they have Fayer. The old man's run off somewhere.
I'm gonna kind of like take a glance around. I'm bracing myself for them to charge.
Oh, they're definitely going to grab you in the next couple of seconds.
I'm
right.
going to try and get my pistol out from my pocket.
Okay. Frank, what are you going to
and
do?
move towards the others as well. I don't want to be standing.
You're all kind of clustered together within a few feet of each other already, and kind of surrounded by graves. You can't really go backwards because there's graves there. There's like almost a wall of them.
Can I ask how many we see? Is it a dozen? Is it 2 dozen? Is it 3 dozen?
It's a dozen, then it's 2 dozen, then it's a crowd of them.
Well,
you could probably. Well, I don't know. You're kind of.
Are we entirely surrounded?
Well, you're surrounded. They're kind of in front of you.
Well, we're not going to just leave Fayer, are we? Yeah.
Besides, I need to find something.
All right. So yeah, I've got my pocket knife. I'm just ready for them to charge at me, and I'm gonna tackle as many as I can.
Yes, I'm on guard with my pistol.
All right. Well, let's go in order. Frank, you're first. What do you want to do?
I'm going to kind of put my back to the rest of my group and then just basically take my crowbar and start swinging wildly.
Start swinging it?
Act like I'm crazy and just start yelling, "Stay back, stay back."
Right. Oddly
like
enough,
I'm crazy.
Oddly enough, the ones that are directly in front of you react, as you would if somebody was swinging a crowbar at you. The ones a little bit farther away are amused. They're laughing. Mm-hmm. The crowd's making quite a noise. I mean, they're not yelling. They're just making noise because they're a crowd. But they're staying right, away from in front of you.
Are they saying anything specific? Are they chanting or like what?
No, they're just. It's like they're definitely. Well, it's obvious that they all belong to the same cult, and they're wearing what looks like human skin jackets or robes, and this is probably the Brotherhood. But they're
bugger.
They're advancing on you, but at the same time, they don't want to get shot or hit with a crowbar. So Frank's up in the front, and he's kind of clearing them out of the way. The one that has Fayer is he's got him from behind, and Fayer is not struggling because he's just not big enough or strong enough to struggle.
Do any of them have light sources?
Actually, yeah, they do.
Okay.
We'll say they have torches. Makes it more dramatic. They have torches. Okay. So Frank is doing that. Dawkins, what are you doing?
I am searching for my utensil. Not leaving.
Okay, it's dark. You can't see where it fell, but you know that it fell right over here somewhere.
Yeah, that's what
and they are now almost upon you. So they'll grab you in the next round if you don't do something. You have a crowbar too, by the way.
Yeah. I also have my pistol. So I'll pull out my pistol, but I'm crouching on the ground, like padding around on the ground around the area I think that it might have fell.
Okay.
And yeah, like I said, I'm not leaving here. Not for these jokers.
All right, so you're doing that. Eldridge, what do you do?
I don't really know. How close to me are they?
6 feet.
I'm
kind of envisioning that the tomb is in between you and them.
But
the creature is still going. I mean, it's reaching out for you guys, so you've got that to contend with as well.
I really don't want to do something stupid. At the same time, we're going to need to fight our way out of this. So, can I... All right, if they're 6 feet away from me, can I lunge out and grab one of them and kind of... What I'd like to do is grapple him and kind of throw him to the creature in the pit.
Okay, you can try.
Okie dokie. And I got a 50 out of 60. Okay, so it's not a hard or anything, but
all right. I got a 6.
Oh.
What happens is you lunge out there and you grab one of them and start wrestling him to the ground, and he seems to be going down, but at the same time, 3 other guys grab you and start to restrain you. And as they start to restrain you, they take away any weapons that you might have and throw them on the ground.
Can't take away these fists. I mean, they can, but
they've kind of got you, like this. So, and they're pummeling you too. They're all punching you and subduing you, but they're not cutting your throat or anything like that.
Yeah.
Dr. Elizabeth, what are you going to do? Because at this time, they're just going to grab you.
Well, I'm going to shoot the first one that gets anywhere near me.
Okay, go ahead.
I do not have a very high firearms skill. I have missed.
Okay. You kind of gave them a warning shot.
It was, yes, that's what it was. It was a warning shot. I did that deliberately.
And when
away,
you do that,
ruffians.
They jump because it's a loud bang. And but they've got you. They grapple you. And they're kind of manhandling you, and it's not
hand me, you beasts.
Frank, you're sort of clearing a little path through, but you've seen now Eldridge has been grabbed and Elizabeth has been grabbed. What are you going to do?
Which
Apparently
one?
Elizabeth just disappeared.
Stand up, let her go. Who would be closer to me?
Eldridge is closest to you.
Okay,
Dawkins is over on the side. He's closest to Elizabeth. You're actually pretty close to Elizabeth too, because she was in the front.
I think if Eldridge is closest to me, I would change course a little bit and head with the crowbar swinging in his direction.
Okay.
And also yelling parlay at the same time.
Do not hit me.
Why don't you go ahead and do a luck roll?
Oh, God.
Okay. Sorry, Eldridge. 31 is a pass.
Okay. You clobber one of the guys. Hit him right in the head, and he goes down. But very quickly, the others grab a hold of you. You've got now about 5 people around you. So they grab the crowbar and they wrench it out of your hand. And one of them picks it up to swing it at your head. And you can see one of the other ones stop him from hitting you in the head. And so after that hesitation, he comes down and brings it down on your knee, which hurts like hell, but it brings you down. Dr. Dawkins.
Did I find my knife? I mean,
No.
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 Son of a bitch.
Maybe it's better you don't find it, because then they'll take it.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
So then, as I see this happening, I'm going to at least try to fire my pistol. See if I can take out the one that's one of the ones that are manhandling Dr. Elizabeth.
All right, go ahead.
And that is a 13. And my firearm skill is a 30, so that's half.
Okay.
That's more than half.
So you fire your gun right into the shoulder of a guy who's grabbing Dr. Elizabeth, and he yells and rolls over. But within that second, 3 other guys grab a hold of you, and you're pretty much all grappled. Within a couple of seconds, they've disarmed you, and they've started to drag you out into the clearing. In front of the graves, there's an area where there's no graves, and they've pretty much got you surrounded. There's a number of stone monuments that are there. They're kind of oddly shaped. I don't know how to describe them. I saw them in a picture, but they're kind of obelisks that stick up. And within a few seconds, they have each of you pressed up against one of those, and they've tied you to them. So you're tied with your hands behind your back with this big obelisk up against your back. And you are, we'll say you're standing. Okay. Now, as you're restrained, and they're all sort of menacingly looking at you, you hear a sort of a change in the timbre of their voices as the crowd sort of parts, and there's 4 of them carrying a kind of a table with a chair on it, and there's an old man sitting on the table, so they're bearing him in like he's an important person. And they're all looking very reverently towards him, but expectantly towards him as well. And they bring this throne, if you will, in, and they set it down, and he looks at you. He's in a kind of a grayish, obviously made of skin robe. He looks like he's maybe in his 70s or 80s. He's old and wrinkled, looks a little frail. But the look on his face, he's in a kind of ecstasy. He's in a kind of supreme pleasure is on his face. And he gets up off of his throne, and you can see that he's a little hunched over, and they help him down to the ground. And you realize that he's not pleased at you. He's pleased at something internal, some sort of triumph that he's finally gained. And he comes forward and he's looking at you, and he says, "So, at last," he says, "my little trick worked, didn't it? I finally have you here." And he turns to the others and he says, "The prophecies which I have seen in this last week have at last come true. The strangers from afar have brought us back our beloved and most sacred of objects." And then he turns towards you, Elsie. Who shall he pick? Eldridge. He looks down at you, and he has this wicked smile on his face, and he says, "Where is the Sedevkar simulacrum?"
And I'm assuming that we're technically we're how restrained are we? Just our arms and legs?
Yeah, you can't get away.
Yeah. So I lean down and I say in Russian, "Do your worst, pig," and I just spit in his face.
So, he's not going to tell me I like it this way the best. And he says, "But first I'll give you one last chance. Where is the Sedevkar simulacrum?
I look to the other party members and I look back at him and I say, do your worst.
And he goes. And he raises his hand like this, and he makes some sort of gesture, and he whispers something that sounds foul and crooked. So, Eldridge, your first sensation, it's as if you had a sudden tingling all over. And in the next second or so, you realize that your skin, the whole idea of your skin crawling, it almost seems like that's exactly what's happening. In the next second, you feel a kind of burning sensation, as if you were having ripples of heat, not over your skin, but under your skin. And then you begin to realize that the connective tissue that holds your skin onto your body is ripping. Sanity roll, please.
Yeah. 48, that's a pass.
1d4.
Oh, yay. 2. All right.
All right. You're now becoming aware that your skin is beginning to act completely separately from your body. You can feel your muscles and bones popping out of the skin that's on your fingertips. You can feel your skin writhing around on your body. And you get the distinct impression that your skin is not your own anymore. It's a separate entity from you, and it's completely enveloped you. Sanity roll, please.
No problem. 16, it's a pass.
1d4.
1.
Okay.
All right.
Then you feel a much weirder and worse sensation, kind of a wet sensation. Down in your groin area, you can feel the skin ripping. And as you look down, you can see a rip running up the front of your body towards your chest and towards your neck. And as this happens, your skin starts to split open, and for a moment you can see your internal organs inside your body as your intestines fall out onto the ground. Sanity roll, please.
No problem. All right, 32.
That is a problem.
I would like you to do a constitution roll for me.
I can do that.
I'm sorry, did you pass the sanity roll?
I passed the sanity roll, and I passed the constitution roll by 6 points.
All right. 1d4 for the sanity.
Okay, another 2.
Constitution. You pass the constitution, but you're completely sickened by what this is your body. Your organs are there. You can see your heart beating in your chest. And then the old man snaps his fingers, and you're completely normal again. And the rest of you, none of you could see any of this. You just saw you saw Eldridge reacting horribly. But the fact that it wasn't an illusion doesn't lessen the horror of the whole thing. And Sedevkar says to you, the old man says to you, where is the simulacrum?
I say, I can do this all day, old man.
So can I. And he does this again. And once again, you start to feel your skin itching all over. Now, here's the thing. You are still going to do the same sanity rolls You're still going to feel exactly the same horror and pain. This could not be a more real experience for you. And so if you're going to hold out, I need you to do 3 sanity rolls.
Okay. 13 pass. 80 fail.
Okay.
30 pass.
Okay. So 1d4, 1d8, 1d4.
Okay. 1, 3, 4, 2. Okay. So 6 total.
Okay. And then the whole thing goes away. And he says, where is the Sedevkar simulacrum? Or I'll do this to the woman.
I look to the others and I look back at him and I say, they won't tell you a thing. We'd rather go mad than tell you.
You have a strong constitution. I admire that. But eventually you'll lose your mind.
And you won't know where it is if I lose my mind.
Oh, I think you'll become quite pliable once you've lost your mind. Well, how are the rest of you reacting to this?
Freaking out.
Okay.
And I failed my sanity roll. You said it was a 1d8?
Yeah.
Oh, I only got 2.
This is the end of Eldridge, guys. He's not going to give in, so he's probably going to die and
Sorry,
go
are
mad.
we all supposed to be making sanity rolls?
Why don't you all do sanity rolls at this point?
It's been a fun adventure with you guys.
I got a 9.
I got a 5. We've prepared for this. We've been preparing for this.
Stiff upper lip.
Yeah.
1d4s.
4.
He looks around at the others and he looks at you. He looks at you and he says, this is taking too long. How about we do it the right way? And this time he walks over to Frank and he goes, well, he whispers something and he holds out his hand and makes some gestures on you. This time, your skin begins to crawl, and the rest of you notice that poor Frank is actually physically itching. His skin almost looks like it's crawling on his body. And the old guy says, he says, tell me, where is the Sedevkar simulacrum?
Don't tell him anything, Frank.
I'm going to keep my mouth shut, purse my lips.
He makes a stronger gesture, and now you can feel the skin in your body ripping the connective tissue. You feel it sloughing off your body, and the rest of you can see the skin sloughing off of his body as it's going. Sanity roll, please.
Get an 01.
All right. 1d4. Now tell me when your sanity gets down to really low.
I'm at, do you want me to tie in?
Sure.
24.
You're at 24?
Yeah.
All right. All right.
And I think that was 5 just in the last couple of rolls.
Okay. Now you feel, once again, your body, you can feel what Eldritch felt. Your skin begins to rip up the front, and all of you can see this now. You see it literally ripping open. You see blood start to drip down. There's not a lot of blood being spilt because the thing keeps its blood. It's ripping itself loose, and you see the flaps sort of opening almost like a mouth, and you can see poor Frank's internal organs. And the guy says, he looks over at you, Elizabeth, and he says, you're next. Where is the Sedevkar simulacrum? Tell me or you'll all die. Horrible, excruciating deaths. I can keep this up all night.
Monstrous pig.
It's probably the only thing you can keep up all night. Filthy bastard.
Damn! Roasted.
Who said that? He instantly shoots the guy who said it. Okay. I would like you all to do sanity rolls at this point.
Again?
Yeah, from seeing him ripping open and his intestines suddenly come boiling out onto the ground.
55 out of 68. It's another pass.
Pass.
I failed. 1d8.
1d8, please.
All right, that's a 5.
Okay. At that
And
moment...
1d4 for a pass. Again.
Okay. Dr. Dawkins failed. Got 5.
I've now lost 5 sanity, by the way.
Okay.
Well, I've lost 6, actually. But
Dr. Dawkins suddenly yells out, "It's in the vault."
I didn't say that. That was some elder being speaking through me.
Well, it's you got 5, so you're out of control. You don't want this to happen to you. You don't want it to happen to your friends, and you just blurted out, "It's in the vault," and he says, "The vault in your hotel," and you're like, "Yes," and he's like, "Good." He turns to Elizabeth and he says, "Where is the scroll of the head?"
23 railway cuttings, East Cheam, London.
My guess is that it's in the vault with everything else, or in your rooms. And all of a sudden, you realize that everything that you saw was an illusion. Still, you took all the sanity for it. He backs away, looking at you in triumph, and he says, "You are fly specks in this world. You're worthless to the skinless one, who is our Lord. And now we will go and get the Sedevkar simulacrum, and we will at last fulfill our destiny."
Are they going to be able to fit your table on a boat?
And he turns around, ignoring you at this point, and you see that the cultists have brought in some sort of a big, gigantic sack, like it's made out of oil skin or something like that. And as they unwrap it, there are at least a dozen children that have been sewn together with twine, going through parts of their body, any part that they could grab a hold of. They've sewed these children all together. The children are whimpering. They're mindless. They're like in a daze, but they're crying. They're beaten. They've lost all hope of escape. And they bring in these 3 big, almost cauldron-looking things of bubbling skin ooze, like the stuff in the grave. And as you watch, they pour this goo over the children, who then scream. It looks like it's boiling. And the whole thing begins to mold itself into a kind of gigantic blob, screaming child skin thing. Sanity rolls for all of you.
Jesus Christ. Pass. I got a 3.
All right.
Passed. Doing rather well.
Fail.
All right. I'll say you take either two sanity damage or 1d4. Okay.
Another 2 then.
Dr. Dawkins, you're pretty much screaming now.
Yeah.
Okay. This thing begins to come alive, and you can see that the children's little arms and legs are poking out of this thing, and the thing is trying to raise itself up on their little feet, and you can see the skin sort of stretched over their little faces that are sort of permanently stuck in screams, and then all of a sudden tentacles of skin rip their way out of their mouths and begin writhing around. And the old man, the people are chanting, Salim, 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 Salim. He says, now we will go and we will fulfill the prophecies. We will go now and get the Sedevkar simulacrum. And he says, let's go. We're going to go now. And we will leave these infidels as a sacrifice to the skinless one. And you can see something odd. Well, not really odd. You can see that some of the cultists are like, no, we want to watch. And he's like, no, we're going to go now immediately. I'm tired of waiting. I want the Sedevkar simulacrum. And he gets back up on his throne, and they carry him away, and the crowd is following behind. And this monstrous oozing thing is moving its way towards you. It's lumbering at first, but it's massive, and it's coming towards you. And you know that in a couple of seconds, it's going to be there, and it's going to devour you with its pseudo mouths that are now opening and closing. And
good game, everybody.
All of a sudden, as they're away, they're probably 100 feet or so away as they're going, you suddenly hear a voice, say Dr. Elizabeth, coming from behind you, and it says, nasty thing, nasty, nasty it is, like this. And you feel like there's something tugging at your rope a little bit, and then it snaps, and you realize that the old guy has cut your bonds. But the thing is coming towards you, and he's not going to be able to cut all of your bonds before the thing gets to you.
Well, who's next to me? I'll rush to whoever's next to me.
Frank is next to you.
Well, I'll start trying to undo Frank's.
Dr. Dawkins is on the other side, and he's sobbing, which he'll get over that in a second. You begin to try to, the knots are kind of thick, and the old guy jumps past you and over towards Eldridge to try to untie, to try to cut through his bonds. But the thing is really getting close, and it's sending out its tentacles to attack you. And just at the last minute, just as the thing you think is going to reach out, Eldridge, and rip your face off or something horrible like that, there is a sound that comes from behind you and going past you. It's a lumbering, loud sort of sound, and a tremendous roar as a huge black bear comes barreling past you to attack this thing that's in front of you.
What the
I bloody told you so.
What?
In the next couple of seconds, Eldridge, you hear somebody come up behind you, and they say, please, don't make any noise. I'm trying to rescue you. And then you feel your bonds cut. And Frank, your bonds are cut. And Dr. Dawkins, your bonds are cut. And companion to the dead is now doing a little dance and merrily moving away. And there is a man dressed like a gypsy. He says, I don't have time to tell you now. Please, please come. They may come back. They may want to see. We have to run. Follow me. Go this way. Well, as he's cutting, as soon as he gets somebody, and then he says, run this path here. Go to the beach. There's a boat. Go.
Yep.
I I guess because Dawkins is closest to me, I kind of grab his, I don't grab him, but I kind of help him as he's sobbing and we run down the path.
All right.
I don't need telling twice.
Go ahead and everybody do a luck roll.
26 out of 30.
76, that's a fail.
All right, I got a 31 out of 45.
Fail.
Okay. So Eldridge and Dawkins are in the front, and the two of you are in the back. None of you did an extreme fail, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So you managed to run along, and just as you're like going down over the hill and heading towards the water, and you do see there's a boat there, a little boat. In fact, you're pretty close. You're pretty sure it's the same boat that you saw when you were coming over. There was that other boat, if you recall.
Oh.
I thought it was the Quintus, but pleasant surprise.
And as you get there, you start getting onto the boat. Quickly, please get on the boat. Let's say Dr. Dawkins and Eldridge get on. Frank, you start to climb on. Dr. Elizabeth, you're standing there with Fayer, and suddenly the guy pulls a knife, and he turns to Fayer and he says, "Not you."
Mm-hmm.
And he gets Dr. Elizabeth to get on the boat. He doesn't call you by name. I'm sorry, I did that. He says, "Please get on the boat. Not you. Not you." What do you guys do?
See, that guy was up to look good.
Yeah. I knew that fight was too convenient.
You guys are just going to let him hold the guy off? Hold Fair off?
Hey, look, if it's his boat, his rules.
Yep.
All right, so
that's the law of the sea.
He gets you on the boat, and you guys get on the boat, and he says, "I can't let this one live." And
why not? I'll ask the obvious question. Why not?
Well, he grabs the kid, and he's holding him, and he's got his knife, like ready to jam into the kid's throat. And he says, "Every single day, this one has been going to Salim Makriat there and telling him what you have been doing.
Bloody knew it.
He is one of them."
But how do we know?
"I've been watching. I will explain everything, but for now, we cannot let him go."
Okay. Slit his throat.
So he slit his throat and throws him to the ground. And he gets on the boat. And then he's like, you see him looking back towards where you guys had been. And he suddenly looks a little surprised, and he gets on the boat really quick. He says, "We must go quickly. We must go."
Yep.
So you guys start across the Bosporus, heading back towards Constantinople. And for a few minutes, he's very busy, with the ship, with the boat, with the little boat, getting it going. And he tries to get a little ways away before he starts up the engine. The bear, you saw the bear barrel into that thing, and almost immediately the thing began to envelop the bear.
Oh.
But it was enough to at least keep it away from you long enough for him to cut your bonds.
Oh, bear.
So now you are heading in a little boat back across the Bosporus. It's going to take, I think we said, about an hour. So as you're going, after maybe 15 minutes, the boat is going. It's heading in the right direction. He can step away, and he says, "Well, now, my friends," he says, you must wonder who this is who has saved you from such horrors unimaginable. Yes?
It did cross my mind, and everyone else, I'm sure.
He says, I am not what you think. He says, "I am not a gypsy at all. No." He says, "I am a Turk. I am disguised as a gypsy. You see, my name is Akhtar, and I am a spy. Is that how you say it in your language? A spy. Yes, I am a spy for a man you may have heard of. His name is Ataturk.
Oh, indeed.
I have been observing those men who would destabilize the coming Republic of Turkey. They are quite dangerous men, yes?
Absolutely.
He says,
Indeed.
you see, those men who captured you, I've been observing them for some time now. I saw them taking children. I don't understand what has happened, even to the British government in this our city. But I reported their activities to the police, and still nothing happened at all. I fear that the police may be in on this horror. They may be part of it. I was quite foolish to do so, you see, because well, you see, they came for me. I thought I was too clever for them, but they found my child, my daughter, my Asya. Those monsters, those fiends. I followed them. I followed them to their hideout through the tunnels. I had to know if she was still there. Through the cisterns, I followed them, and the things they have done there, things straight from hell. I finally, I found her. I wish I hadn't. They had done terrible things to her, unspeakable things. They took things from her. She didn't survive. They must pay. There are no words to describe the fire in my heart. It burns for revenge. I saw them following you, but I kept my distance. I did not know why you were so important to them, but it doesn't matter. You are their enemy, and that makes you my friend. If you did not have some reason to hate them before, I know that you do now. Let our hatred burn together. We must destroy them utterly. We must crush them under our feet and make them pay. No one else will help us. What do you say?
I don't see that we've got any choice, have we? They must be stopped.
Good.
Absolutely.
Good.
You say you've been following them, though.
Yes, as I say, I'm a spy.
You know where their base of operations?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I know right where it is, and I know the secret entrance. It is a place called the Red Mosque, yes?
Yep. That's just what we were looking for. Actually.
But there is no way to go straight into the front. There is a secret way. I followed them. I spent much time watching them, and what I discovered was that more of them come out by the front door than go into the front door, which meant there must be a secret way. And so I followed them until I found it. It is through the cisterns under the city. And we should go. We should go now. Because apparently they are up to something no good at this very moment.
Let's get moving.
Yes, we need to get to our hotel. That's where they're going.
Okay. Well,
and everybody, and I'll say this to the group, like everybody that's in the hotel is currently in danger. So we should get there as quickly as possible.
So it takes you another half an hour to get to the thing. And he says, are you sure? Because if there is something at your hotel that they wanted, they have it by now. As far as they know, they think you're dead. We need to go in and stop them and save whatever children are left. Oh, I do have water, thank God. That's a hard voice to do.
I'm just sitting in the corner. I'm not even really listening.
Well,
It's kind of how I'm feeling. I'm pretty shattered at the moment.
because you escaped, because you have hope at this point, I'll let you do recover some sanity. Do a 1d6.
I have no hope. I
Hmm.
was going to wait for him to stop talking for me to say that I'm done.
1 point. Hooray. Oh, my good
Say
lord.
1d6.
Yeah.
No, it's 4 points.
5.
All right. All right. So you arrive back at the city, and he says to you, what's his name? Akhtar. Akhtar says to you, we must be careful. He says they have spies everywhere. We will go by back streets and we will find the place. It is not too far from the Red Mosque, but it is a secret entrance. You're all going along with this? Yep. Okay.
How are we going to fight these people?
Yeah, it's hopeless. It's pointless.
They've taken our weapons.
We're done.
Do you want to get more weapons?
I want to leave. Eldridge doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to do anything now. He wants to go home. He's got a kid. He's got a wife. He doesn't want to do this. I'm being serious. He does not want to go. He lost. He went from 52 sanity to 28. He does not want to do this.
Well, you tell me what to do. You guys are there with him too. You can see Eldridge is hesitating. You can see Frank is hesitating.
Come on, man, chin up. We've got to stop them. They're going to get it.
But
this is our last stand. This is our last chance to do something about this. We can't back out now. We come all this way. We can't back out now.
It's not our job to deal with this. We were just normal people who saw a boat appear on a lake, and that's how we started. And now, I don't know who I am anymore. I was just enjoying a nice little break in Venice until you dragged me into all this. We didn't drag you into this.
For God's sake, man, pull yourself together.
I look at you and I say, I've got a kid at home, and I have a wife at home, and I want to see them.
And if they get the simulacrum and do whatever they're going to do with this thing, how safe do you think your family will be?
How safe do you think we're going to be walking into a fortress?
Look, you can either run back home, and I'm not telling you what to do. But you can either run back home and spend the last few moments with your family, which is fine, or you can stand up and fight against this darkness. Now, how will you live with yourself if you go home and they pretty much destroy the world, and you could have at least stood up to them?
And Akhtar says they're sacrificing children. My God.
Imagine if that was your daughter.
I look to Frank, and I just kind of look, because I'm standing up, because I'm red in the face, because I just got up and ran my face right into Elizabeth's, shouting at her. So I'm looking down at Frank, seeing his reaction. What are your thoughts? What do you want to do?
Akhtar says, what you need, my friend, is a good drink. and he pulls out a small bottle of forget what it was called, Rika or the alcohol.
Well, and I smack it out of his hand. And I say, "Get that shit away from me!" And I just look
Language?
at Frank.
I think Dr. Dawkins is 100% correct. I have a wife at home too, and I know exactly what you're feeling right now. Well, I don't know exactly. We're not in the same situation. You have a daughter, but I can't help to think that we've come this far, and the odds are against us clearly. But I don't know if I could live with myself if I gave up at this point and then it was all for naught and something does happen to them.
And I look, and then I nod, and I look to Theodore, and I look back to Frank, and I say, "Remember what we promised each other."
Yeah.
This is it. We're not all of us. There's 4 of us in a fortress of them. We're not all going to make it.
Mm-hmm. Unless we can outsmart them somehow.
Yeah.
But perhaps we need a plan of attack. I think that we should sneak in, and while they are distracted, and I shall distract them if I have to, you can take the children and run. Perhaps they will not be able to do what they are planning on doing without the children.
So there are other children at the mosque, more than the ones we saw in the...
They have taken quite a few children, more than I saw tonight.
Just out of curiosity, did we recognize the police chief's son in that group in the graveyard?
You did not.
Okay.
Well, I vote for action.
If we do action, the children are a necessity, but they're not the priority.
Akhtar, can you lay your hands on any weapons? I mean, as Machiavelli said, it's always best to go armed.
Yes, I can get some weapons, of course. I know where there's cache.
Good.
Akhtar has
Cannon.
a point. Akhtar has a point. There was something in the scroll about they needed the children as sacrifices.
But what's stopping them from getting more children? There's plenty of children. The scrolls and the pieces are what they actually need.
Yeah.
Well, if they need some sort of sacrifice, if they need the children for a sacrifice, and they're setting things up to do this ritual, it might be a bit dicey. But what if we were to infiltrate stealthily, and then during the moment while they're concentrating on this ritual, we get the children out, and by the time whatever they're calling up comes out, there are no children for them to sacrifice. And I'm pretty much thinking that if you awake some old god or something like that, and he's hungry, and you don't have dinner ready for him, he's going to make you dinner. So maybe we could turn this situation against them.
That's a good point.
I say that no matter what, we burn it down.
It's a good idea too.
This is a holy place. It's where it all started, and it's where it needs to end. We burn it down. We create 10 Molotovs, and we just lob them. When everything's said and done, we lob them at the building, and we burn it down.
I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Come, my friends, here's the place where you were all winding your way through the streets. He says, I have weapons here. Guns and knives and things, scimitars.
Yeah, well, I won't say no to a knife and a scimitar.
Hmm.
All right.
Okay, so we'll say that each of you has a gun, a knife, and a scimitar.
Okay.
Or do you want clubs? They got clubs here too.
I'll deal with this scimitar or scimitar. What kind of guns, though?
Just like 22s, small handguns.
By good fortune, that's the exactly the kind of handgun I'm used to using.
And some of the knives are fairly big. They're daggers. They're boy knives, like boy knives.
Do you have the damage stats handy there, Mick?
For a 22, yes, it's 1d6 damage, range of 10 yards.
Well, then you're going to be in close quarters. So, knife does 1d4 plus 2 plus damage bonus. Scimitar, 1d6 plus 1 plus damage bonus.
I'm going to take a knife and a pistol.
Okay.
So that I can go in wielding.
Well, they won't expect the banana. Nobody ever expects to be attacked by a
That's
banana.
because they haven't trained themselves to deal with an assailant armed with fresh fruit.
That's true. Could use a pointed stick. Monty Python.
As if they could.
All right.
Loganberries.
Tom, is it possible for us to load up on Molotovs as well?
Well, you don't really have access to alcohol, or gasoline, or anything like that.
Aftershave?
Dynamite?
Let's say maybe there's a couple of bottles. We'll say there's a couple of bottles of rock tea, and some rags. So you can make 2.
All right.
But they're about the size of a wine bottle or a vodka
Who's
bottle.
good at throwing things? Not me.
Not I.
Oh, definitely not me. I'm base. I think we're all base, aren't we?
Frank, are you good at throwing things?
Nobody puts points in throw.
Oh my god.
Well, it's not like you
Rupert
actually
was a
have
cricketer.
that you have to hit anything except the wall.
Well, if we're trying to get
true.
people.
That's true. You basically just have to drop it.
Well, you don't want to drop it because then it hits where your feet are.
I mean, drop it in the general direction.
Right.
It's also
I can throw it underhand.
Fling it. You just got to get close. So, all right. So you have 2 Molotovs. And you have knives, guns, swords. Right. So he takes you through the streets once again. You're in the shadows. You're avoiding anybody who might be walking around. There's a couple moments that are rather tense when you have to stop and make sure you actually see some policemen walking by, and he's like, I don't know. We can't trust them. Eventually he takes you to a little door, and he says, I am sorry, ma'am, but this is going to be a little difficult for you. But let us proceed. So? You shall see. You go inside, and it's a small room, and there is a spiral staircase going down. And he goes first. He starts down. And what order are you guys going in? It's a little narrow for you, Dr. Elizabeth, but you can. It's not that hard. I mean, just push your way through. Order?
Well,
wants to go first.
Right. I'll go first then.
Okay.
Since
I'll be
everybody
behind.
else everybody else usually goes first.
I'll go behind Dawkins since I have the best brawl.
So, let's see. Dawkins, then Eldridge, then Frank or Elizabeth.
Dr.
Yeah, I
you wanna
guess
go?
I'll go at the back because he's kind of, from what he's just said, he's kind of inferred that I should. Sorry, he's implied that I should. I've inferred that I should.
So Frank and then Dr. Elizabeth. Okay. And then he's going first, Akhtar.
And just to be fair, I'll take the other Molotov, but if anybody else wants it, I'm happy to hand it over.
Okay.
I'll take one.
I'll take one. Okay, I'll give it to you.
My banana is loaded and ready.
All right. So you head down these stairs and they go, and they go, and they go, and you're getting lower and lower and lower. And it seems like you've been descending for at least 10 minutes. And they just keep going lower and lower and lower. And Akhtar says, I'm sorry about how deep we're going, my friends, but we're going all the way to hell. Eventually it levels out. I mean, it comes down to a landing. And the passageway is only about 5 feet high. So you have to kind of hunker. But you can see that that it goes for a while, and eventually it just opens up into a cistern, and you can see that you are in a large, very large cistern. It's probably 2 acres across. There's pillars holding up the roof. It's filled with water, and you can see that there is a small boat that's there. And he says, everybody gets into the boat. It takes you a few minutes to cross the cistern to the other side. There's a small landing. But it doesn't look like there's anything there except the landing. And you see Akhtar sort of move along the wall with his fingers like in the space between stones. And he finally finds something, and you hear a kind of clicking noise, and the stone starts to move out. So it's like a stone door. And he says, it took me a long time to figure out how they did this. I watched them do it, but it's tricky. Beyond that, there's a long passageway. And you go for a while, and you begin to notice that the walls are covered in kind of like a black slime. And you start to smell the smell of death, the smell of rot. And at the far end, there is a door. And it's a big, heavy, wooden-looking door. And he says, we must be very, very quiet. He says, and try not to gasp. He says, there are horrors beyond this. So please don't make any noise. He very carefully opens up the door, and there's kind of a green light. And you can see that what you are in is a tomb. And there are shelves all around. And setting on these shelves are these big metal urns. And they've got names written on them in Arabic and Turkish. But you can't quite tell where this greenish light's coming from. It might be moss or some sort of a growth that's giving off this glowing light. But your impression is that you are in like the tomb of the honored dead of the skinless cult. So you move past that, and there is a little archway, and Akhtar turns towards you like this. And Eldridge, you were up in the front.
Yeah,
I
was
am-
up front.
Yeah, I'm behind Dawkins.
Okay. Dawkins. He sort of holds you and positions you so that you can see that there is a guard standing through the archway just slightly to the side and not paying attention. He's just standing there, not facing you. You're looking at the back of his head.
Okay. Is there? I'm going to be looking around quietly. I'm not moving, but I'll look around to see if there's anybody else.
No, it looks like there's just the one guy who's been put on duty to guard the honored dead, so to speak.
I turn to our new friend and I'll sort of draw a line over my throat, like I'll give him the honors. He seems pretty handy with that knife.
So he slides over to the side and puts his back up. Well, he puts his front up against the wall and he slides into the little archway, and very quickly he reaches up and slices the guy's throat. And the guy struggles for a moment, but Akhtar grabs a hold of him and sort of eases him down to the ground and keeps his hand like over the guy's mouth just in case he makes noise. Within a couple of seconds, the guy's twitching and he's dead on the ground. Now there's blood all over the place. You are in like a little antechamber, and the how do I say it? The just a second. Actually, do a spot hidden while you're standing there.
Nope, 94.
All right. Did anybody pass the spot hidden?
I did.
All right. You notice that the guard's sword, his weapon, is actually sewn onto his hand. So it's rather gruesome.
Of course it is. Why wouldn't it be?
In this room, in this antechamber, there are scrolls on shelves all the way around, neatly stacked. There's also some what looks like empty jars, like empty urns that are sitting there as well.
Without disturbing anything, could I take one of those scrolls?
Yes.
I'll just take one and just stick it in my pocket.
Okay. At the far end of the room, you can see stairs leading up. And there's kind of a bluish light coming from up above. It looks almost like, well, how do I describe it? Almost like fluorescent lights, although I don't think they'd invented fluorescent lights yet. It's a strange bluish sort of light. And he, once again, Akhtar leading the way, he takes you up and he sort of looks back at Elizabeth and he kind of is like, makes a gesture like, maybe you don't want to see this. But as he leads the rest of you into there, it's obviously some sort of a medical room. There are some very strange looking medical instruments that look like they're obviously designed to strip the flesh off of a body. But there are also some traditional medical things. The ground is heavily stained in blood, and there are body parts in jars all around. Everything you can think of. So pretty hideous, and pieces of deboned body parts, so that it's just flesh. It's hideous. Why don't you guys do a sanity roll for that one?
Fail.
Pass.
Okay.
Pass,
Oh.
just.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
I thought I rolled really
Oh, no, I
well.
was looking at luck. I passed really well.
I thought I rolled really well when I saw that first 00. I got 100.
Well,
My luck is right out.
you sort of stumble against a table, and it makes kind of a clanging noise. However, at this point, you can all hear a din, as if a din of noise, as if there were people murmuring just up ahead. So you all sort of hold your breath for a moment, and nothing happens. There's no guards come rushing in or anything like that. So you're kind of lucky. But right up ahead, you can see that there is a curtain. There's a little archway, and there's a curtain, and you can hear this noise is coming from the other side. And Akhtar has gone over, still in this medical sort of room, and there's a closet or a kind of a thing like this, and he opens it up, and there are skin robes hanging there. And he immediately starts pulling them down and handing them off to you.
Can I interrupt real quick? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I froze there for a bit. Did I miss anything?
He found there's a closet in this medical room, and he's handed you all skin robes.
Okay.
And there's noise coming from through the curtain. So he sort of very quietly whispers to you. He says, "Through there is the interior of the mosque. This is where they gather." He says, "We can pretend to be them." And the skin things have kind of hoods so that you can pull them over yourselves and hopefully blend in. All right. Cool. All right. So he says, let us go forward. So he's the first one. He kind of pulls the curtain back a little, and he peeks out, and he turns back towards you, and he says, "The room is filled with cultists." He says, "They might not even notice us." So he steps out into the crowd. And in fact, as he pulls back the curtain, you can see that you're in kind of you're at the back end. Imagine like you're going into a church, and the church just happens to be round, but you're like in the back of the church. So you're not even in the round part yet. You're kind of in the back. So most of the people that you can see are all facing to the side. They're facing away from you. They're not they're not looking in your direction. So he brings you inside, and you can see that you are in the center part. Well, you're not in the center part. You're in the mosque. There's a big dome up above, and at the far end, farthest away from you, there is a huge black sort of pillar thing, a slab of stone, like a block from Stonehenge that's there. And you can see what at first looks like a star that's sort of carved into it, but you very quickly realize that they're niches that are shaped like body parts. There's a head, a torso, 2 arms, and 2 legs. And you can easily guess that this is where the Sedevkar simulacrum gets placed. And there's a little platform right in front of it, also part of the stone. And all of the people are facing this, and they're worshiping, they're chanting, and they're rocking side to side, and none of them really notice you. Well, none of them do notice you. You guys are way in the back. Do you guys want to do anything?
I'm going to start looking around. I'm not doing it like openly or anything like that, but I'm looking around to see if there are any children around here.
You don't see any at the moment, but it definitely looks like they're gearing up for something. And as you are there, part of you realizes, my God, what the hell? You know, we may as well have just walked into a lion's den. There must be 300 of them in here. And just as you're sort of realizing that, you realize that there is a din, a noise, once again, coming from one end. And as it is, you can see the people are suddenly making a lot more noise. And Salim Makriat, the old man, on his throne is being brought inside, and following behind him are a sort of an honor guard, and they are carrying the pieces of the Sedevkar simulacrum. And the people are chanting, and they're making this noise.
I want to lean into the group and whisper, we need to hurry and find the children. They're getting ready.
Yeah.
The throne is set in the center in front of this gigantic rock. And now you see them bringing in the children. And there are maybe 6 children. The 6 children, one of them is a little British boy. Okay. You can see that they're all kind of dazed and confused. Maybe they were crying earlier. Their cheeks are red. And the people who are bringing them in, there's like three people in sort of special looking robes. They have twine, and they have this big bolt needle, each one of them, to sew the children together. Salim Makriat motions for them, and they place the pieces of the Sedevkar simulacrum in these niches. And Akhtar, is that his name? Damn it. I keep forgetting his name.
Yeah. Admiral Akhtar.
Yeah, it was Akhtar.
Akhtar says to you, he says, I will make a distraction. At a key moment, I will make a distraction over here. And you go this way. And you can see the way he's pointing. You can go this way, and you can get the children away from the guys. You'll have to stop the guys with the needles.
Okay.
But you should be able to get to them over here. All right. Sedevkar says, let's see. Oh. I'm way behind, sorry. All right. Salim, he begins to chant something in some foreign language, and you can hear that most of the congregation, if you will, they're also chanting it. And you then see Salim reach up, and he's got a scroll in his hand, and he unrolls it, and it's obviously one of the scrolls. It's not the scroll of the head, but it's one of the other scrolls. And he reads something off of it. And as he does, the people sort of become more and more involved in it. And you can see Akhtar moving over towards the side. Actually, he's almost in the center as he's going. And then something odd happens. It almost looks for just a moment as if the Sedevkar simulacrum sort of glows for just a second. And then Salim hands the scroll to somebody, and he says, "And now finally are we fulfilled." And he steps up onto this step that's in front of the Sedevkar simulacrum. And just as he's about to say like the final words to the spell, you all notice that as part of his cheek, it suddenly stretches out almost like a tentacle, and it wraps itself around the front of his face. And he suddenly is struggling like to get this thing off. And at that moment, Akhtar begins to run forward, yelling down the middle of the aisle, heading straight towards the old man. And he says, there are foreigners among us. Stop them. And he's pointing at you guys.
Didn't want to say it, but it's his kid. That's his son.
And as he runs forward and the people suddenly leap up, you see him run up to the old man, and he says, "At last, I can finally do what I've always wanted to do." And you see him plunge a knife into his father and throw him down the crowd, down into the crowd. And he says, "Your master's son has returned. I, Mehmet Makriot, am the Skinless One's own hide." And as he does, he turns around and he says the last bit of the spell. And you see the pieces of the Sedevkar simulacrum leap out of their spots and latch themselves onto him. And for a moment, he's covered in it. You can almost see him scream in agony. But the next moment, and he's grown almost 2 feet taller. He's dressed in the simulacrum, and it seems to have melded itself to his body. And then it looks like him again, except that it's within him. And he says, he says, this one is an infidel and no longer worthy. And he kicks his father off the sort of platform, and the Brotherhood, they grab a hold of Salim and they tear him to pieces, quite literally. Almost immediately, you are completely surrounded. You are grabbed. You are immediately subdued. And he says, "Seize the infidels." And he's pointing at you and he says, "Bring them to me alive." And you hear him say, "No longer." You're almost beaten at this point, physically. "No longer will the Brotherhood of the Skin cower beneath the dome of this place, fearing to make their presence felt in the world. With the power of the simulacrum, we need serve no one, not even the Skinless One. The simulacrum gives us the power of even he, and the Skinless One shall do our bidding and make great our destiny." And you are subdued, and you are marched off to one of the towers, one of the minarets, and you're thrown in prison. Now, as you are led up into this minaret, you can see that there are 4 levels, and each level is filled with three jail cells. And inside these jail cells are various people, mostly with body parts missing. And he takes you all the way to the top of the tower. Well, the guards take you to the top of the tower. They throw you into this prison cell, and they come in with you, and they chain you to the walls. So you are chained by the wrists in the classic sort of torture chamber style. You are chained to the walls. You are not alone. There is another victim in here. It looks like just a ball of person, because this poor old guy has had his legs and his arms removed. He's just a torso leaning up against the wall.
Oh, good God.
And the guards leave, and for a few moments you are chained to the wall in this room, and you are so dazed by what's happened. You're almost overwhelmed with the horror of what's happened to you. And then you hear a clanking noise, and the door to the cell opens, and in walks Akhtar, the guy who looked like Akhtar, only he's dressed now in better clothes, more actually British looking clothes. And he comes in, and he's got a cigarette, and he leans against the wall, and he's just staring at you with this shit-eaten grin on his face. He says, I can't believe how well you all performed. He says, I'm just delighted. He says, I'm a genius. He says, I never even imagined that it would go this well. He says, so I have to thank you for that.
And modest with it, clearly.
How long have you been planning this? I'm completely beaten. There's no hope.
Give me just 1 second. Sorry. I thought I had this open. He smiles. He gives a little laugh. He says, well, where do I begin then? A few years ago, I made the decision to overthrow my father. He's been the head of the Brotherhood far too long, a stickler for traditions that have brought us absolutely nothing. It's my intention now to take the Brotherhood out of obscure darkness and place them in a place of power, a place where I can have control of everything. I needed some sort of catalyst. There have been stories amongst my people for centuries concerning the mythical simulacrum, a suit that would give its wearer tremendous power and focus the energies of the skinless one. And so I began to search and gather data. Unfortunately for me, I don't possess the credentials that you do. There are some places I simply don't have access to. Oh, I can use magic to transform my appearance, but that doesn't get me the experience and knowledge necessary to impress someone like the head curator at the museum in Sofia. Says, I knew also that there would be some danger involved, and I'd much rather risk your lives than mine. Anyway, for a couple of years, I functioned out of a little shop in Islington, keeping my eyes open, hunting for artifacts. Truth is, the simulacrum was just one thing on a list that I was hoping for. I wasn't even sure that it was real, but I needed something. I had a number of agents, 3 in fact, who, thanks to magic, could be made to look almost identical to me. They had identical IDs and acted as my extra eyes and ears. They searched and searched, but it just wasn't happening fast enough for me. So I decided to try something new. I would get some official or dignitary or maybe a scientist to do some of the work for me, someone with clout. I attended the Challenger lecture last January, and what did I find? The perfect group to succeed where I had failed. Since once I knew who you were, I started laying my plans. First thing, I eliminated my doppelgangers so that they couldn't report to my father. If I was going to do this, no one could know but me. Your beloved professor never knew what hit him. I pretended to be a scholar, and once inside, I conjured an invisible servant to whisk him away here to Constantinople. I told his servant Beddoes that if he ever wanted to see his master again, he'd obey me and do exactly what I told him. What a dupe. But then I duped you, of course. Gave you all the information I had gathered over 3 years. As you saw, it wasn't much. I counted on your stupid loyalty and honor to find the simulacrum.
So it was you in the bed. It was
yes,
you.
Of course. Yes, one of my best performances. I've been following you all this time, just out of reach. I even traveled on the train sometimes. It was I who sent the telegrams, by the way, mostly to confuse you and spur you on. You did exactly what I wanted, though to be honest, I thought you were doomed in Trieste. I had to trick some of the Brotherhood members that were there into a fight with the Loiger cult so that you could escape. It was a close one. And then once you got close to Constantinople, I figured my father would begin to hear rumors that someone was coming. I let him think that he was having revelations about the simulacrum. It was me all the time. The second he dropped his guard, the Brotherhood was mine. And now, with the power of the simulacrum, I can lead the Brotherhood out of medieval obscurity and bring them to a place of power. We already have members in position. Now all we need is the throne. I'm heading...
what do you plan to do with all this power?
Control everything. Who wouldn't want that kind of power? I'm heading for merry old England in a few hours aboard the Orient Express. Have to get back to my shop and read the scroll of cleansing, or all this will be in vain. Then it's straight to the top. You ask me why? I will be a god on earth, ruling over all things, wielding the power of the Skinless One, and woe to anyone that opposes me. By the way, how are you all feeling? Have your aches and pains ceased? They have. Good. It's my little gift of appreciation for all your hard work. You see, the relief is temporary. Now that I wield the simulacrum, your ties are severed, but the wounds that you have remain. Without the ritual of cleansing, you'll degenerate in about 100 hours and then die in agony. But before you die, you'll be little more than mindless animals. So I've arranged something. I've decided to tell the guards once I'm gone, the guards are going to come in here and unchain you and let you go. You won't be able to escape the tower. There's just no way out. But as you degenerate, you'll no doubt get hungry. And that's why I left you a little snack. And he points over at the guy with no arms and legs in the corner. He says, It's all meant to be quite amusing. I wish I could stay for it. My God, I'm such a genius. I deserve to rule the world. Guards! And you hear the clank and the door opens and he turns around and walks out.
What we need now is a cunning plan.
Be quiet.
Has anyone got one?
No. We're going to die. And we need to just accept that.
Well, who's this
We're all
poor wretch
going-
that's chained up in the corner?
I was saying that he was not Smythe from pretty much the beginning. And now I'm here, chained up. There's nothing that we can do. We're in a tower. There's no way down. And he expects us to go mad and eat Another human being. I'm done.
And that's when the guy in the corner, the body in the corner, says, Eldridge, is that you?
Oh,
No.
very interesting.
No.
And it's Professor Smythe's voice.
No. We're unchained, correct?
You're chained.
We are
You
still
haven't
chained.
you haven't been unchained yet.
Yeah, so I'm rattling the chain, and I'm pretty much I'm completely broken. I'm pretty much laughing hysterically, and I say, we were all idiots. We're all idiots. I told you we should not have ever gone on this. My paranoia, my fears have all been realized, and now we tried to be the good guys. We tried to save the world, and it didn't matter. We're going to die. Our families will die. We're going to eat Smythe. That's it.
It sounds like Eldridge. Eldridge, is that you?
Yes, Smythe, it's me. And you're just a husk of a man laying in a corner with no arms and no legs.
He sort of wiggles and he tries to roll over. You notice that his eyes have been removed.
Oh, God.
He's like, how are you here?
Oh, am I here?
It's a long story.
It's a story that I can sum up in about 2 sentences, Dawkins.
Dawkins? Dawkins is here who?
Yes,
Dawkins.
yes. It's me.
Who is here? Who is here with you?
It's Frank as well. We're the last of the original 3.
I thought you had all gone back to America.
I wish.
Should have, perhaps. We got suckered into this whole business.
We did exactly what they wanted us to do.
It very much
played.
looks that way, doesn't it?
We got played.
I don't understand anything that you're talking about.
We know. Smythe, we know. Now we're just gonna die. We're going to die.
I wish I still had that hip flask.
I wish Rupert were here. I wish that everyone were here. I wish we'd never gone.
What do you mean, Rupert? My
Your nephew.
my nephew?
He's gone too.
I dreamed about him.
Did you?
Yes. I don't know whether it's day or night, but I was just dreaming about him.
And what happened?
How did you get here?
How did I get here? That awful man. He said that he was a scholar, a Greek scholar, and I let him into my house. He conjured up some sort of a thing. I couldn't see it. It was invisible. But it grabbed me, and suddenly I was out the window and flying over London. A few hours later, I was here. They've been cutting off my body parts, bit by bit. I keep telling them I'm not going to tell them anything, but they don't seem to want any information.
Yeah, they didn't need you to tell them anything because we were busy telling them, thinking that we were talking to you.
Well, now that I've heard, at least actually he was asleep, so he didn't hear. He says this probably has mostly to do with my old enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Smythe, what do you know about a cleansing ritual?
I don't know what that is. I don't know what sort of cleansing ritual.
I don't know either. He made it sound as though it was a final step that he had to take.
My assumption is that he needs the skinless one to be removed from the artifact. That's my guess. Eventually, the skinless one will try and take control, and he wants that gone. He wants it for himself and not the skinless one, like he said.
Do an idea roll.
I roll an idea roll. That is a pass.
Over the course of this adventure, you have at times read the translation of the scroll that you had. You've studied it. You've looked at it. One of the things that it mentions is that every 100 hours or so, that the wielder of the simulacrum has to do a ritual of cleansing. Otherwise, they begin to corrupt. It's one of the reasons why Fenelek looked the way that he did. He couldn't die, but his youth had been sucked up by the simulacrum.
So what now, gang? I call out. Are we going to find a way out? Are we going to be the good guys? And I just kind of groan.
You really don't have a choice, no matter.
No, we don't.
And Eldridge, I have to offer you an apology.
I don't want your apology, Dawkins. I don't want any of your apologies. We're going to die up here.
Want it or not, I still offer it.
I say then, I don't know how far my opinion counts, but I say we jolly well go out fighting. It's what Rupert would have wanted. I'll be damned if I'm going to die here like a dog.
Rupert died in his cabin on the Orient Express. The vampire ripped his head off.
What? A vampire?
That's right, Smythe. Your nephew got his head ripped apart by some undead thing, which we killed. And now we're here, and Rupert's dead.
These people, what monsters they are. Superstitious nonsense. Monsters. These people here themselves are superstitious. They believe that there are evil spirits in this place.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Evil spirits?
Anyway, I think that's a good place to stop. Mm-hmm. And I will give you this one thing. This is not the end of the story.
Sounds like it's the end for us.
Nope. Our players included Thomas McKeon, Mick Swan, Jeff Wilkins, and Wayne Worthy, with myself as the keeper of the secrets. We're currently producing 4 shows a week with music and sound effects added in post-production in order to create a richer listener experience. We provide audio-only versions of our shows free for you to download from Podbean or iTunes. Patrons of our show can now enjoy recordings of our pre- and post-game conversations when we first publish them. Some of the funniest and most interesting stuff occurs before and after the show. If you'd like to become a patron, visit our Patreon account. Just $1 or $2 a month will help us a lot. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for updates on our latest shows, and leave us some comments. We love hearing from you. This is Tom Rayleigh, together with all the members of our gaming club, inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure into the universe of H.P. Lovecraft and the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Until next time, good luck and good gaming.